If you kidnap a ghast into the overworld, then kill it, you get the Uneasy Alliance advancement. But what if you did that in the end, next to a Strider? You see, around 2 years ago Jaren did a video on getting the rarest screenshot in Minecraft, where he transported a Strider all the way to an end city to take this screenshot. But in this video I will be one-upping him by bringing both a Strider and a ghast to the end for the actual rarest screenshot in all of Minecraft. But before all that, we needed to find a lava pool to enter the Nether. I went deep into the caves to find one, but instead of finding a lava pool I found a trial chamber. And for some reason, even with my iron armor on hard difficulty, I decided it was a good idea to loot it, only to nearly die several times. So after running away from the mobs I made it to a lava pool and brilliantly put together a nether portal to enter the nether. The first objective in this dimension was to find a saddle and kidnap a Strider, which will be the first mob I bring to the end. So after looking around for a bit, I found a saddle in a fortress, then proceeded to do an epic dream manhunt Strider play.
Get him! He's on a fish to find, he's got a vision! No! What?
Anyways, after the alien abduction, I put the Strider in a box and named it Herber, because in Jaren's video he named his Strider Gerber, and to assert my dominance I switched the first letter for H since H is after G. Next was gathering the resources needed to beat the game. This included killing blazes for blaze rods, and trading with piglins for ender pearls. But with my iron armor and limited food supplies, this proved to be very difficult, as just a single hit from any mobs would pretty much send me 6 feet under. No! But after carefully completely annihilating blazes and scamming piglins with their own gold, while also nearly dying, it was time to bring Herbert to the overworld. But a problem came. I had forgotten where I had put Herbert. So introducing Herbert 2, the new and improved version. Anyways, after that tragic incident, I brought Herbert 2 into the overworld to start the long journey to the stronghold. But before that we needed to gather some resources for bedrock breaking. You may be wondering why. Well, you see, in Jaren's video he built a bridge to get to the outer islands, but this is very inefficient and will take too long. So I will be breaking the bedrock that surrounds the end gateway and push Herbert in, since Striders are too fat to fit in a 1x1 hole. And this bedrock breaking method required 1 TNT, 1 piston, 5 redstone and some obsidian. So with this long list of materials needed I went back into the mines to get them, and thanks to this massive cave, I was pretty easily able to obtain all the materials needed, like redstone, obsidian and gunpowder. So now I had all the materials needed. It was time to begin the ultimate journey to the stronghold on a Strider. But unfortunately Striders on land move as slowly as my internet, and there isn't really a way to make them move faster, so pretty much I was stuck staring at my screen for literal hours. Although nearly losing my sanity, I finally arrived at the stronghold. So after finding the portal room, the next step was to dig a 2x1 hole all the way up to the surface, so that I could ride with Herbert all the way to the bottom, where he will fall into water and take 0 damage. So now, it was finally time to be the second player to bring a Strider to the end. In the end I got very unlucky with a fully open spawn platform, meaning I had to bridge across the void to get to the main platform and risk Herbert falling. But with my epic pro gamer skills, I was able to make a bridge and staircase all the way up to the main end island, where I lured Herbert up and put him in a hole for protection. So now it was time to fight the dragon. First I shot all the crystals, then proceeded to be a disgrace to the speedrunning community by failing at the 1 cycle. But in the end, I gave the dragon the last claps on the cheek to end its life. Which meant an end gateway opening, which meant breaking the bedrock, which meant getting the Strider to the islands, which meant… Anyways, it was time to break the bedrock, but I had only brought a few TNT and pistons on me, so if I mess up, I would have to go back into the overworld for more, which is very not stocks. So with everything set up, it was time for the moment of truth. All I had to do was hold down right click on this obsidian and the bedrock under should break. And the first one broke. as well as the second and the third. It was now time to bring the second ever Strider to the end cities and take the rarest screenshot in all of Minecraft. So I retrieved Herber from his hole and pushed him through. After successfully going through the portal, it was time to look for a suitable end city. But since I'm on a Strider that moves slower than crouching, I will just be using chunk base to locate an end city, which may be considered cheating, but I don't care. Just kidding. Anyways, I was lucky enough to find an end city just a few hundred blocks away even with the ship. And to prevent the events of Jaren's video, I killed the shelters that threatened Herber and took this screenshot, being the second ever person to do so. But it isn't over here. So I put Herber back into a hole and headed back to the end gateway with the elytra I had obtained from the end ship. The next order of business was to bring the ghast into the overworld, but to do so, we would need to make a giant nether portal the size of my, which would require lots of obsidian. And thankfully, there are massive obsidian towers in the end, where I can get them. So the plan was to make a giant room in the nether with an also giant nether portal that leads to the portal room, then fishing rod the ghast through the portal. But you may be wondering, once in the overworld the ghast will try to fly away and suffocate. Which is where minecarts come in. After the ghast has entered through the portal, it will immediately get trapped into a minecart that goes through the end portal, and once in the end, it will get transported to the end gateway, then along a bridge to the end city where Herber is. But to do this we will need rails, around 500 or 7 stacks. Which may sound like a lot, but with my Fortune 3 pickaxe and the fact that iron is more common than insincere Twitter apologies, getting this was a breeze. With the iron obtained from the mines, I crafted more than enough rails and made my way to the stronghold. In the stronghold, I carved out chunks of the room to make it big enough for a ghast to fit, which are 4x4x4 blocks tall. Now that was done, I then made a nether portal and entered the nether. Then broke the generated nether portal and made a bigger one that could house a ghast. Along with that, step 2 was building the massive chamber to hold the ghast in, since after they spawn, they will immediately try to fly away, which will be stopped by the ceiling. So after building the massive chamber, it was time to lay down all the rails, starting from the stronghold, then through the end portal and gateway, and all the way to the end cities. And while I'm laying these down, you should totally like and subscribe. It will give you 10 years of luck. Anyways, after laying down all the rails, I made my way back to the end gateway, then to my nether portal. So now all that was left to do was wait until a ghast spawns in my chamber and fishing rod it in, which will hopefully go into a minecart and get transported through the portal, which I hadn't actually tested, so I had no idea if this was gonna work or not. But despite this, I went away from keyboard to take a nap for a ghast spawn. Then I woke up from the nap to check, and to my surprise, there was a ghast. So all that was left was the easy part. I tried to fishing rod the ghast in the portal, but accidentally shot the fireball back towards the ghast, killing it. That meant that I needed to take a nap again for another one to spawn, which honestly I wasn't complaining about. I woke up once again to be met with a screaming ghast. But this time, I didn't kill it. Instead I masterfully rodded the ghast into the nether portal and could only hope that when I go through the portal, the ghast will be in the minecarts. And when I went through, the ghast was safely in my candy van. So using a furnace minecart, I pushed the ghast through the portal. And this is where the real challenge began, as when any entity goes through the end portal, all blocks on the platform disappears. So that means all the rails I put on the platforms that was supposed to catch the ghast and transport it, will have all disappeared. So now I had to go through the portal and place new rails on the platform and try to push the ghast onto it. Which proved to be very difficult, as just one wrong fireball would free the ghast from its minecart and mean that I had to do this all over again. But after several agonizing attempts, the minecart finally locked on, and the ghast made its way to the end gateway. So now the only obstacle was going through the portal. Since I hadn't tested this, I didn't know if the portal was big enough to fit a ghast in. But to my surprise, it went through, and the only thing left was just getting to the end city. Using the furnace minecart, I once again pushed the ghast on the rails and towards the end city, where Herber is. So now all that was left is waiting. Flying around and dodging fireballs. After the ghast arrived at the end city, I uncovered Herber, went into second person, and took the rarest screenshot in all of Minecraft's history.